Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all joining us from across the world. Welcome to the World Future Council's World Health Day webinar, Dangerous Chemicals in Cosmetics, Challenges and Solutions for a Toxic-Free World. This webinar is part of the Forward Thinkers webinar series that is being organized by the World Future Council. And we are also live streaming this on the Facebook and YouTube pages of the World Future Council. My name is Gehekasha. I am the youngest counselor of the World Future Council and also the founder president of Green Hope Foundation. And I'm very glad to be your moderator for such an important discussion today on the dangers of beauty aids, especially for children and young people. Now, before I give the floor to our panelists, I would like to briefly introduce you to the World Future Council and the Future Policy Award of 2023. So the World Future Council works to really pass on a healthy and sustainable planet with just and peaceful societies to our children and our grandchildren and future generations. And to ensure this, we focus on identifying, developing, highlighting, and spreading the message of effective future just solutions for the current challenges that are facing humanity and the planet, and promoting their implementation all across the world. Now, the Future Policy Award celebrates policies that create better living conditions for current and future generations. Every single year, the World Future Council identifies one topic on which policy progress has been particularly urgent as well as successful. And the aim of the award is to raise global awareness about exemplary policies and that have actually worked to speed up action to address these challenges. And the Future Policy Award is designed to alert policymakers and the public to the importance of best practices in law and policy making, and to highlight these outstanding examples of regulatory vision and to encourage rapid learning. And the award draws attention to existing sustainable policies and demonstrates that when political will is asserted, positive change is indeed possible. In 2021 and 2023, the Future Policy Award focused on future legislations that contribute to minimize the adverse impacts of exposure to chemicals on human health, and with a particular focus on children's health and on the environment, which of course all contribute to the success of Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is really important because there's currently over 140,000 human-made chemicals in the world, and more than 1,500 new chemicals enter the market each year. And although these chemicals are already a part of the commercial environment, many of them have actually never been properly tested for safety and toxicity. And what is even more problematic is that these chemicals that haven't been tested often end up in our environment, in our water bodies, soil, or air, or in the food chain, or in drinking water, or they accumulate in our bodies or other organisms. And these run the risk of not just being natural, but also synthetic. So this year, we highlighted laws, policies, and legal frameworks that protect people, particularly children, and the environment from hazardous chemicals in products, in beauty products. So experts from around the world nominated 40 policies from 27 countries. We received 7 nominations from Africa, 13 from Asia, 11 from Europe, 6 from Latin America, and 3 from North America. And we had over 30 experts who were assisting us. So in this series of the Forward Thinkers webinars, we really deepen this intergenerational multi-stakeholder dialogue and try to address the nexus of the right to health and the hazardous chemicals that protect children, young people, and generations to come. So today's Forward Thinkers webinar picks up on the theme for this year's Future Policy Award for a Toxic-Free World and highlights a topic that we all find extremely worrying. There is currently highly unregulated global skin lightening markets that are estimated to be worth billions of dollars. And these skin lightening creams typically contain toxic chemicals like mercury in quantities that significantly exceed health guidelines. So, for instance, bleach weakens and penetrates the skin, and it increases the risk of cancer and other diseases. Children can be exposed through breast milk, and food chains can become contaminated when cosmetics are washed off into the soil and water. So the production, trade, and sale of mercury-added skin lightening products is taking place despite bans. And the market has been extremely successful. And this has continued despite awareness campaigns and prohibitions, including the Minamata Convention on Mercury. That's a global treaty that prohibits the use of mercury. So today's webinar will discuss the impact of the Minamata Convention and national legislations to protect children and young people, and most especially girls and young women, again, from these skin lightening products, understanding the socio-cultural backgrounds and the importance to regulate this market and to raise awareness about the harms of skin lightening creams, not just on society, but on the environment as well. So I would request the audience, before we give the floor to our panelists, to, if you have any questions, to please add your questions to the Q&A section on Zoom. And now, in the spirit of the Future Policy Award and today's webinar theme, we are now going to show you a very short video that takes a closer look at the use of hazardous chemicals in products, with this focus on children and their environment.
Children are our greatest treasures. We strive to protect them and to ensure they have every opportunity to develop into healthy and well-adjusted members of society. But unseen dangers lurk. Everyday objects harbor silent threats. We are threatened by an invisible pandemic caused by toxic substances that surround us in the objects we use in our daily lives. These hazardous chemicals, found in our most common items, infiltrate our lives, accumulating in our bodies, in the water we drink, and even in the soil. Children especially bear the brunt of their effects because their organs are still developing and are less able to cope with toxic chemicals. Consider the innocent joy of a child playing with a favorite toy, unaware of the potentially harmful substances, such as phthalates, that they contain. These are released over time, potentially causing cancer, infertility, or even brain damage. Even our food, in its convenient packaging, can carry PFAS, also known as forever chemicals. They seep into our bodies, threatening our health and damaging the environment. Our everyday cosmetic products can also have these chemicals. A striking example is skin bleaching creams, serving beauty standards of light skin and causing severe health issues. The impact is global. It knows no boundaries. We therefore need to strengthen the international management of chemicals, as well as establish forward-looking policy solutions on national level. Effective regulations should include all products, regardless of price or origin. Consumers must be educated on the dangers surrounding them and must easily be able to find accurate, understandable, and reliable information on the safety of their everyday products. We call on national governments to strengthen consumer rights, implement the Global Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, GHS, and get inspired by existing legislations. We call on the chemical industry to search for alternative, green, and safe solutions. We call on everybody to protect the health of children and future generations. Together, we can make the change.
Thank you very much for the video. That definitely gave us a comprehensive overview of what we are going to be discussing today. And so it's now my absolute pleasure to invite our panelists to take the floor. And we have a very eminent panel of speakers today joining us from across the world and across different fields, but with the common goal of creating a world where we do not have to deal with these hazardous chemicals that are negatively impacting our society and the environment. Now, given the background on this year's Future Policy Award topic, we are first going to hear from our keynote speaker, who is Monica Stankiewicz, Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Monica is the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury since 2020. She has over 20 years of experience working on environmental issues. And the Minamata Convention on Mercury is a global treaty, as was mentioned earlier, aimed at protecting human health and the environment from the harmful effects of mercury, and was adopted 10 years ago and signed by over 140 parties. And since its inception, the Minamata Convention has made significant strides in addressing all of these different challenges that are posed by mercury pollution while promoting the importance of international cooperation and sustainable practices. So, Monica, we are very pleased that you're joining us today. I shall now give you the floor. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Kashan, and good day, everyone. I'm very grateful to be invited to speak at this webinar. Really, I am, because this topic is of such importance. And from the beginning, I would like to thank all the speakers, but also the audience for your work, attention and energy to work towards the world free of toxics. I was invited to say a few words about the science, what we know of chemicals. And as you are all for sure aware, we come in contact with chemicals every day. It's through the food we consume and also products we use or are surrounded by at home or at the workplace, through the contact with the environment. It was also mentioned already, we have chemicals that are naturally occurring, and these are typically well studied, but there are also synthetic chemicals, and there our knowledge of their impact on human health and the environment is quite limited, and there is only a selection of them that are assessed. The World Health Organization has been dealing with the health effects of chemicals for some time, and they came up with a top 10 list of chemicals of major public health concern. And let me list those. You might be familiar with some of the names, and these are air pollution, so any chemicals that creates air pollution, arsenic, asbestos, benzene, cadmium, dioxin, and dioxin-like substances, inadequate or excess fluoride, lead, mercury, and highly hazardous pesticides. WHO also produces information on health impacts of the few chemicals that we do study using so-called disability-adjusted life years, which are the sum of years of life lost due to premature mortality and years of healthy life lost due to disability. And according to one such estimate, 2 million lives and 53 million disability-adjusted life years were lost in 2019 due to exposure to the selected chemicals, and the trend is on the rise. And in many countries, the approach to chemicals is to allow their use in different products unless they are proved to be harmful. However, the approach to allow the use of chemicals only when we know they are safe would be much better. And let me zoom in a little bit into mercury, one of the chemicals of concern, and the Minamata Convention as an example of harm the chemicals can do and how it can be addressed. Mercury is a naturally occurring substance. It's being emitted from rocks, soil, and volcanoes. However, human activities has elevated mercury levels in the environment, in the atmosphere, quite a lot in recent decades. There is a well-established scientific understanding that mercury is very harmful to people and the environment, and there are no safe levels of mercury exposure. And children and women of childbearing age, including pregnant women, are at the highest risk when exposed to mercury. Children, infants, and fetuses are at the highest risk because of their nervous system is still developing. And the biggest source of exposure to the most women than born fetus and small children is contamination of seafood by mercury that circulates globally, far from its original emission sources. And the most harmful form of mercury is methyl mercury, and that's what is contained in polluted or contaminated food. But there are also other exposure pathways, such as air pollution, daily contact with products that may contain mercury, and I mentioned the cosmetics, the subjects of today's seminar or webinar. And the Minamata Convention on Mercury is the first global environmental agreement negotiated in the 21st century. Its aim is to protect human health and the environment from emissions and releases of human-induced mercury. It is a young convention, has been in force for 6 years only. However, the story of the convention goes back decades, and actually it can be traced back to Minamata, which is a city and a bay in the southwest Japan. In the 50s and 60s of the past century, people living in Minamata were severely poisoned by consuming seafood contaminated with methyl mercury. And the contamination of the sea of the entire bay was caused by mercury in wastewater released by a local chemical company. And the poisoning was called Minamata disease. And that's where our Minamata Convention takes its name from. And many people in Minamata suffered, many died from the serious neurological disease. Many people were affected in mother's womb. And the Minamata Convention, when it was signed 2013, Kumamoto in Japan, it was actually in the presence of some of the longtime sufferers and their family members. And in the preamble of the convention, we recognize the substantial lessons learned from this environmental disaster. And there is a call for global action for such a tragedy never to be repeated again. When I visited Minamata last autumn, actually, and was honored to meet the victims of the mercury poisoning, including Ms. Shinobu Sakamoto, who was poisoned by mercury while in her mother's womb. She actually traveled to Stockholm in 1972 for the UN Conference on the Human Environment, and there are some photographs of her being there to join the other Minamata disease victims and other civil society groups to call for action that is evidence-based and equity-focused. And you may know the conference was the first global conference to make environment a major issue. She also attended the first meeting of the Conference of the Parties of the Minamata Convention in 2017. So just let me say a few words about the convention, what it contains. So it does address mercury across many sectors and in every stage of the mercury life cycle. Parties, those who ratify the convention, are required to implement control measures designed to limit the amount of mercury in circulation, reduce and eliminate the use of mercury, and reduce emissions and releases of mercury. The convention is solidly grounded in science and data, not just about the devastating health effects of mercury, but also how it behaves in the environment, which sectors are responsible for the emissions and releases globally and regionally, and the impact on populations vulnerable to mercury exposure and on the informal economy. And cosmetics containing mercury is a key example of how the use of mercury impacts people in their everyday lives. Such cosmetics with mercury are regulated by the convention in Article 4, which provides that parties shall not allow, by taking appropriate measures, the manufacture, import, and export of mercury-added products listed in Annex A to the convention by the phase-out date. The original provision of the convention lists cosmetics with mercury content above 1 ppm, which is 1 milligram per kilogram, including skin-lightening soaps and creams with the phase-out date of 2020. So why mercury is added to cosmetics in first place? The mercury salt inhibits the formation of melanin, resulting in a lighter skin tone, and this effect is not permanent. Beauty standards promoted by media, advertising, and marketing reinforce the bias the lighter skin tone is more desirable than the darker skin tone. And despite having banned this mercury in cosmetics in many countries, and despite of the Minamata Convention, cosmetics with high amounts of mercury and other hazardous substances are often easily obtainable over the internet, but also in local shops in many countries. And we know that thanks to some committed organizations and individuals who have recently done research, investigation, and studies, including those present today. Adverse health effects of mercury contained in skin lightening products and soaps include kidney damage, skin rashes, skin discoloration and scarring, reduction in the skin's resistance to bacterial and fungal infection, anxiety, depression, and psychosis. And in the Minamata Convention, we track the progress that parties are making in phasing out mercury use in cosmetics. Parties are obliged to report through the Secretariat, and based on the recent national reports that also covered Article 4 and Annex A with mercury added products, we know that many countries are taking appropriate measures. However, there are some 35 parties who responded that they have not implemented these requirements yet. They list also what are the challenges preventing them to fully implement. And this, for example, there was a mentioning of no inventories of trade of mercury added products developed, technical and financial constraints, the need to gather more data, or not having regulatory framework in place yet. Within the convention, we have a financial mechanism to support implementation of the convention by parties, and this is, for example, through Global Environmental Facility, GEF. So there are already some activities to help also regarding the cosmetics. One example is GEF project on eliminating mercury in skin lightening products in Gabon, Jamaica, and Sri Lanka, implemented by UNEP. And I would like to conclude this presentation by saying that the regulations have not been fully effective yet. And there is a need for those regulations to be implemented by more countries, and also a need to better enforce them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica, for sharing your insights on this really important topic. Absolutely, there is this urgent need to ensure that these policies are enacted and that we're actually able to see the results of their implementation on the ground. Thank you for highlighting how we lack enough research on synthetic chemicals as compared to naturally occurring chemicals, but how hazardous chemicals in general are so dangerous, and showing really how this exposure to hazardous chemicals such as mercury actually creates this generational trauma due to the absolutely terrible physical, emotional, and mental toll it takes on the health of people. So thank you very much for sharing that with us today. And I think that has set the table for us, as I think now it's time for us to invite our other distinguished guests to take the floor so that we can understand more about why skin lightening creams and products are now so popular and why it's so important to take steps to regulate these products. So we have with us today Dr. Jean-Pierre Mukiza, who is the division manager in charge of cosmetics and household chemicals assessment and registration at the Rwanda FDA. He holds a bachelor's degree in chemistry with a specialization in environmental chemistry and a PhD in chemistry. And Dr. Mukiza has headed the division since 2021. We also have with us Avipsa Mahapatra. Avipsa is the Climate Campaign Director of the U.S. Environmental Investigation Agency, which is an independent campaigning organization committed to bringing about change that defends the natural world from environmental crime and abuse. and she has led the campaign's global exposés of illegal trade in fluorinated chemicals, as well as technical and policy work. And she is also very familiar with the topic of skin lightening creams. We have with us today Siddiqa Sultana, who is the Executive Director of the Environment and Social Development Organization in Bangladesh. In 2021, she was chosen as the Vice President for Asia of the World Alliance for Mercury-Free Dentistry. And she's the first woman from South Asia to achieve the World Alliance global leadership role since its inception in 2010. And finally, we have with us today Karni Bhattacharya, who is a youth present representative of the Youth Forum of the World Future Council. She's currently pursuing double masters in sociology from Bielefeld University and the University of Bologna. And she is also a member of the UNRISC and the UNCTAD Youth Forums. So welcome to our panelists. And the first person I'd actually like to give the floor to is Avipsa. Now, what I'd like you to elaborate on is that, we've seen how fair complexion has often been associated with prosperity and beauty, something that Monica mentioned as well. And we've often seen experts relate this culture of colorism to the colonial era. So what are the social-cultural reasons for this popularity in light skin being seen as more desirable? And what does this mean, especially for girls and young women? And what impacts does this have on pregnant people, especially? So over to you, Avipsa.
Thank you, Kekishan. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I must first start by saying that I'm absolutely honored to be with this esteemed panel today and talking about this critical issue. And to your question, Kekishan, I must first say that Monica covered quite a bit of the impacts of, intentionally added or otherwise mercury on human both directly and indirectly. But to answer your question, take a step back and first address or delve into why in 2023, we're still seeing people purchase and use skin lightening creams. And we all know that when a baby is born, they do not naturally have a preference for a particular skin color or shade or tone. So clearly the preference is socially constructed. And if we take a step back and look historically, several cultures did have a preference. Not all cultures, to be very clear. Several cultures did have an outsized preference historically for lighter skin, because there was a historical association between lighter skin and higher social status. This connection stemmed from this not necessarily accurate idea that those with lighter skin, historically exempt from outdoor labor, were therefore more affluent. While these historical notions persist and contribute to the perception of, skin lightening in some societies, we must see that how colonialism perpetuated and then strengthened this perception, and in many places created this difference between what was considered a privileged life versus what was a life to strive for. And that difference, this sort of highly entrenched racism and colorism that we see in our society, is definitely the key factor behind the preference for these creams, or the preference for skin lightening. And I must say, while women are often targeted and are a majority target of the advertising campaigns by such creams, they're not the only targets. And similarly, while there's a perception that only certain parts of the world are facing this issue, that is also not true. We are seeing the presence and sale of these creams everywhere in the world, including in the United States, including in Europe. So it's not a problem out there, and that's important to understand. And then I will also point out that while there is while we live in a society, unfortunately, where colorism and racism are pervasive issues, and we have seen decades, if not centuries, of prejudicial treatment based on skin color, there is a real complicity, I must say, by media in perpetuating certain beauty standards that favor lighter skins. This includes advertising, television, films, social media. Light-skinned individuals are frequently portrayed as more successful, attractive, socially desirable, and that influences social perceptions. Growing up in India, I was definitely very aware of advertisements that showed a sad young lady who was not able to find a husband or a career until she applied a fairness cream, and lo and behold, she suddenly had the best career and a great husband. And that kind of ads often not just affects young women, it also affects people around them. Now, I'm no doctor, but there are more than enough scientific studies out there that have confirmed and established the direct harms of applying mercury to one's skin. But I think to your question, one thing that has not been maybe as well understood is that it's not necessarily just the person who's directly applying these creams or using these products, but it is also, these creams can also impact people that are around the user. So the health risks are not just to the individual users, but say children who are coming into physical contact with these creams, the surrounding environment, and and we already know that effects can range from kidney damage to neurological effects, and to skin issues such as blotching, skin discoloration, scarring. And what we have seen that even in, say, New York City in the United States, we are seeing very high ppms of mercury in skin lightening creams. And this fact that these creams are existing and have contained mercury at this high level is not just a threat is not just a social justice issue, or it's also an environmental justice issue, because if a pregnant woman uses any such cream, what that could lead to is the first of all, actually, societal emphasis on light skin can manifest into heightened expectations for pregnant women to produce lighter skinned offspring. So there is a mental aspect to it, including additional stress, and also the woman herself might get affected, because some cultures associate specific skin changes during pregnancy, such as darkening of the skin, chloasma, with negative connotations, which again could lead to insecurity and body image issues. But the babies themselves, through breast milk, can also get impacted. So I'll pause here, and the list just continues to grow, but I know we will revisit the question of how we can all work together to make this stop. So talk to you more then.
Thank you very much, Avipsa, for sharing that with us today. And you're absolutely right. This preference for lighter skin is a social construct, and it is an absolutely widespread problem. And thank you for highlighting just how the media has played a role in promoting skin lightening products. And as you said, connecting it to marital success, career success, societal success, and how that's just so harmful. So thank you once again for sharing that. And I think that's a really good segue to our next panelist, Gurney. And you'll be speaking as a young woman and an activist from India. And I'd really love to hear more from you about what you think about the societal pressure to have lighter skin, how you and other young Indian girls and young women perceive this trend, and how you've seen this use of skin lightening creams, their popularity amongst young people in India. Can they even afford to buy skin lightening products, and the toll it takes on them? And Avipsa talked about media, but could you elaborate a bit more on how the role social media plays in kind of putting forward this toxicity? So, Gurney, over to you.
Thank you, Keka-san, for this insightful question. And thank you, Avipsa, for already setting the premise of my discussion. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, the audience and the respected panelists over here, for having me on board the World Future Council. Coming back to the question of the social construct, I might say that it is very much rooted in the histories of colonialism, as well as India has deep-rooted problems of of caste system where lightening skin is associated with the worth of the people. So generally, we assume that fairer skin lightening products may have an beneficial impact on the career prospect, on the individual's own ability. So individuals generally tend to lack their own potential if they think that they have much darker skin. And that's where the social construct plays a role, and it starts from the birth of the baby. General statistics has already shown that even in terms of having surrogate babies, the parents of the babies choose surrogate mothers who are having more fairer skin in comparison to the darker skin. As well as it starts like after once the baby is born, as Abhipsha has also stated, that baby doesn't choose their own shades or skin colors or whatever, but this the parental constructs, they tended to apply a lot of chemicals, even the natural products. Even in terms of rural regions, they used to provide like curds or turmeric powder, or so to speak, some natural products to lighten the skin. So this is something very much there, even in terms of marital aspects. I would say that there are different platforms which has different skin tone colors. In the matrimonial ads also, people used to promote this kind of racial undertones that, okay, fairer skin bride is wanted or something like that. Even derogatory labels are used, like Fair and Lovely products, in terms of marketing more cosmetic products or whatever, like skin brightening, skin whitening. It has a huge market in India, and even foreign brands are also creating and establishing a huge market. Imported all the products that are not manufactured, especially in India, does have a lot of mercury and all other intoxicated chemicals into it, and that creates a lot of harm in children and especially young women. Young women, in terms of social media usage, tend to use a lot of Instagram filters to promote skin lightening things, like Instagram filters were a lot of used. And this is creating suicidal rates even, which is also very interesting to see, that women especially are lacking their self-worth and not getting proper jobs even, and not getting proper partners, as also highlighted by Abhipsa in her statements. So this is an alarming situation in India, with a growing market of the skin lightening products, despite the ban of the Advertising Council, that often Bollywood stars, who are kind of considered to be promoters of the skin lightening brand endorsements, they do in terms of promoting this racial connotations and all these brightening skins. Still, all the popular social media channels have this skin brightening and skin lightening products full-fledgedly, and that's very alarming. So young women, there is a huge trend of adopting this trend. Still now it is persisting despite all these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gurney, for sharing that with us. And it's just so horrific that this vicious cycle of promoting skin lightening starts from birth. And, you highlighted how this is directly related to racism, to colorism, and to casteism. And, you talked about how celebrities and within India, Bollywood celebrities are often chosen to portray these products. And, people think that, okay, if they're doing it, that means it's really good. And, and thank you for highlighting like this, the increased rates of suicide as well, due to the fact that of the societal pressure for skin lightening. And it's just so horrific. So thank you very much for sharing that with us today. We shall now pivot to Dr. Mukiza. So in 2016, Rwanda issued a ministerial order to protect the people of Rwanda from the harmful effects of chemicals contained in cosmetics and to improve the health of the Rwandan population. Really wanted to know more from you about why it was so necessary to regulate the market. What were the reasons behind this whole phenomena that young people and women especially accept damage to their health in order to create this and achieve this image of beauty that is actually not anchored in any kind of Rwandan or wider African culture. And we'd love for you to actually elaborate on the campaign Black is Beautiful and its outcomes. So Dr. Mukiza, over to you. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Thank you, participant. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending the part of the world where you are. I can start by just talking about why Rwanda has taken a decision of controlling and regulating the cosmetics product. Initially, the laws of controlling the cosmetic product was in 2012, and later in 2016, the government has established and published the ministerial order showing the prohibited cosmetics product on the Rwanda market. The reason behind was that before before those regulation and the laws, there was many cosmetics on the Rwandan market. Even today, we have cosmetic on the Rwandan market. And at that time, some of those cosmetics were identified to be substandard. Uh, and from the research published elsewhere, from the international collaboration, from regional and local research, we have realized that some products, some ingredients in a cosmetic product may cause different health issues like hydroquinone, mercury, corticosteroid, kojic acid, and so on. So the government has taken decision of controlling cosmetic products on the market, and that ministerial order was on the annex of that ministerial order. There is a list. There is a list of cosmetics which are prohibited in Rwanda, and there is also other ingredient which are advised to be used with a prescribed concentration. So later in 2018, the government has appointed the new institution, Rwanda Food and Drugs Authority. It is a Rwanda government institution in charge of controlling the quality, safety of different products, including food, human medicine, and veterinary medicine, and cosmetics. So in Rwanda FDA now, we have different cosmetic services like cosmetovigilance, like import-export control, registration services, post-market surveillance, cosmetic promises, registration. So that means the ministerial order, which I said before, is currently reinforced and monitored by Rwanda Food and Drugs Authority. So I can say today the market is controlled and the prohibited ingredients are known in the order, and we assess the dossier for cosmetics product before being placed in the market as in the law. So we are doing many things about cosmetics product in terms of quality and safety, even the efficacy control, after realizing that substandard cosmetics may lead to different health issues. Uh, so about the people who intended to change their skin color, I can say changing the skin color is a choice. Is a choice, but what Rwanda is doing now is prohibiting all those cosmetics which contain the bleaching and harmful chemicals like hydroquinone and mercury. Uh, Now, Rwanda FDA is always in enforcement and controlling. We control the market, we control all product entered in the country. Uh, so, but people, some product may illegally enter in the country. As you know, people may commit the crimes and the product may illegally enter in the country, but it is very rare as the Rwanda borders are well controlled and the Rwanda FDA is always in place, and it works in partnership with other government institution, and we use also to work in partnership with regional countries like Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, and so on, just to handle those unsafe cosmetics products. Ministerial order is still active. We have also in the mandate of Rwanda, we have also the guideline to guide applicants who want to register their cosmetics, because in our laws we have mentioned that every cosmetics must be registered with Rwanda Food and Drugs Authority before being placed on the Rwanda market. So we have regulatory documents to help applicants. We have different document depending to the service. Import is there with document to help people who are applying the import license, because cosmetics product before being entered in Rwanda territory, they have to receive import license from Rwanda FDA. And the people who are applying for cosmetic promises registration, they are also in place to help people who are establishing cosmetic industries and shop, and also regulatory document to guide people about that services are there, and the post-market surveillance also regulatory document are there to help staff in charge of a daily monitoring of cosmetics on the market, and the cosmetovigilance. Also, we have staff in charge of cosmetovigilance who are in charge of continuous follow-up of adverse reaction that may raise from unsafe cosmetics. So we are still working, but I can say today the safetyness of cosmetics in Rwanda is better as we have different institutions, not different policies for that action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makiza, for sharing how political will can lead to societal change, for talking about the successes of Rwanda in regulating the use of skin lightening products and the guidelines that you have put in place for cosmetics to be approved for market use, and the positive impact that it has had. And that it's really, really wonderful to hear how policies that are put in place can actually be enacted and implemented on the ground. So thank you once again. And with that, I would like to come to Siddiqa, and I'd really love for you to elaborate, speaking as a Bangladeshi person and a Bangladeshi woman, on your perspectives on research that has shown colorism being entrenched in Bangladeshi culture and society, and with seeing fair complexion trumping anything else, whether that's facial features, body shape and size, health, demeanor, personality, mental health. And if you can speak a bit more about how this trend affects the health of young girls and pregnant people who are not aware of the dangerous compounds of skin lightening creams, and if there is any kind of awareness campaigns at schools, on TV, that try to educate the people. So over to you, Siddiqa.
Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Thank you for inviting me here. And also, I'm really privileged to share in this platform. And really, I just share with my previous just colleagues. They are already in just say what's the situation in, especially in South Asia. Already Guni and Avisa shared their experience in regards on that. Yes, we all knows the colorism deeply abides in Bangladesh society, where a preference for fair complexions influences perceptions of beauty and success. And also, that this culture bias has negative effects of human health of young girls and pregnant women, and as many may unknowingly resort to using skin lightening creams containing harmful compounds. And if we use it regularly, it's lead to the skin issues such as already discussed about that, the rashes and the discoloring and blotching. And it has the long-term exposure to mercury can result in serious health consequences affecting various bodily systems, including the skin, eyes, lungs, and kidneys, and digestive system, immune system, and nervous system, as well as the pregnancy issues. We all know already is the discussion is happening, and before that, when it started in Minamata, that time we also knows the impact of the and exposure to the human health. We know, and the chemicals poses risks to both mother and the developing fetus, with associations to developmental issues and other health concerns. Was there other questions you asked? It is really interesting. The ESDO is diligently organizing awareness campaign to shed light on hazards associated with skin lightening cosmetics. And ESDO has started this awareness campaign and research on since 2008 in Bangladesh. And after that, there is to publish a country situation report. It's not only the skin lightening cream, it's also the chemicals in products, mercury chemical in products, and included not only the mercury and hazardous chemicals in cosmetics also. So it has a long experience. ESDO has been working with also the Zero Mercury Working Group and European Environmental Bureau since 2016. And it was our approach includes impactful social media campaign and the dissemination of informative case studies and the creation of video documentaries involving dermatologists, victims, parlor association, and youth. We are committed to actively analyzing the presence of mercury in skin lightening creams available in Bangladesh markets and providing the crucial insights. We disseminate our finding through media and engage with both online and physical sellers, and our activities receive enormous covers by news channels by fostering awareness at the national level. ESDO played a key role assisting Bangladesh government to ratify Minamata Convention on Mercury in 2023. I want to share one. We had a interview with the victims. It was really, it's just very painful. The lady, she just said in the black screen. She was a master degree holder in our renowned public university, and she is really educated. But she told us when her marriage is settled, she wants to more beautiful and more beautiful before that wedding. So she used as a 7 days the skin lightening cream. After that, her skin burned, and it's like really is a burn. We saw her face, and she said is after that is her marriage is broken, and she's really mentally collapsed. After the many medication and also the counseling, she just come out, and now she is doing a study again after that higher study, but she fell still only for the skin. She lost her boyfriend also. So it's really, in our culture, everybody think about we have to be fair. Fair means not only the just lighter skin, white skin. Fair means you should look fair. Your mind should be fair. We are trying hard to our in our education system also is to my organization is privileged to also talk to the school children. We have the campaign also the school children. This is in our environmental education program. We talk to the directly school children, we shows the videos, we do the campaign over there, and it's also the very good effect in our awareness campaign. Now people are think about young children are also think about, okay, we should not to come forward for the lighter skin, we should come forward for our education, and of course it should be very smart there. So it is improving, you know. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Sadiqa, for reiterating the horrific health impacts of skin lightening products and hazardous chemicals and cosmetics, and the impacts especially on maternal health and as well as fetus and infant health. And what was heartening to note is the success of the awareness campaigns that you did share, and that at least there is work being done to ensure that people are aware of these horrific health impacts. So thank you very much once again for sharing that with us. Now, we've heard from all of our panelists, so it's really now time for us to come to the second round, where we would like to elaborate a bit more on future just solutions and to discuss how children and young people, and especially young women, can be protected from the harmful effects of skin lightening products. So, Avipsa, let's start with you again. Together with several Mercury watchdog groups, the EIA is calling on Amazon and other online retailers to stop the sales of all skin lightening products after discovering that some contain really high levels of toxic mercury. And according to studies, it seems to actually be common practice for skin lightening product producers across the globe to create creams consisting of 3 to 4% of mercury compound composition, that is, which is really high. And in our research for this future policy award, we also found that online trade and imports often undermine good and effective legislations. So could you speak a bit more to this initiative and a bit more about, how a bit more detail about how it is important for us to really regulate this market and ensure that we are able to kind of take away these loopholes that allow for the flourishing of this industry. So over to you.
Thank you again, Kashan. Yes, I mean, we've now covered in quite a lot of details the dangers of these creams. Just so it's clear, under the Minamata Convention on Mercury, production and trade of skin lightening products with concentrations of higher than 1 part per million or greater is prohibited, right? So that's the baseline. And what we found, and what has been found by other environmental and social justice NGOs for several years now, is that this ban is not necessarily being respected. And you can find creams that contain mercury with a percentage that is higher than this baseline, not just in certain countries, but practically all over the world. I will say a little bit about the EIA investigation that we did earlier in the last 2 years, Mercury in retrograde. And what we set out to do was, how are these creams getting produced in 2023 or 2022 when this is banned? And what we found out through our undercover investigations and primary data analysis of trade data is that, first of all, there's a specific compound that is being traded and added to these creams intentionally. We got companies that produce these creams to admit to us, while we were recording undercover, that they know that the addition of mercury is harmful, but they still continue to intentionally add this in the form of a specific mercury compound called ammoniated mercury. And we could then confirm centers of production in Thailand, in Jamaica, in Pakistan. And these three are not the only places where these are getting produced. These three are where we conducted our investigations and were able to prove that this is happening. But what was more concerning was that this is not happening in a silo. The mercury compound necessary for adding into these creams, that is ammoniated mercury, is getting traded across the world with impunity. So that compound is getting traded into these countries from Spain, from the United States, and from other places. So in our report, you will find a flow chart of how the supply and trade takes place across the world. And the reason I'm painting this sort of context is that clearly we have, for the longest time, been doing awareness programs for the victims of these creams, for the people who are sometimes with choice, as was said earlier, but sometimes without choice using these creams. And you can have as many awareness programs as you want, but you definitely need to completely end the production of these creams in the first place. The fact remains that the beauty industry continues to gain millions of dollars from this insecurity and by selling these toxic products. And if, as governments, we are not able to prevent the production and trade of these toxic compounds, then as governments, I would say we're not doing enough to protect our own people, and therefore we are in some ways, complicit in allowing this to happen. And taking a step back, often when we talk to governments, it is thought of, this issue is thought of as something that is happening out there with just, with just certain communities, and not seen as the global, crisis that it is today. And for that reason, it is what we did. And as part of our investigations, and I must, again, as Sadiq already did, thank other NGOs like Zero Mercury Working Group and the Environmental and the European Environmental Bureau, is that through sampling of creams purchased across the markets, it was shown that these creams not just continue to be present in physical shops, but they are sold very openly, even on Amazon, even on other online platforms. And therefore, it is to us very important that these creams not just be, prevented from being produced, but also from being traded. We should not allow poisonous stuff to be sold, and we should definitely not allow companies to continue to profit, not just from something that is racist and based in colorism, but also is, decidedly toxic. Because what that means is that there's a toxic legacy that these creams and their producers have, and they need to reconcile with that. And we need to absolutely stop the production and trade of these creams. So I'll pause there for now.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for speaking about that toxic legacy, as you put it. And, speaking of governments, I think that's a good segue to Dr. Mukiza. You spoke earlier about Rwanda's ministerial order of 2016, and you talked a bit more about the effects that it has had, but I'd really love to know more about the reaction of the people to this order, and how does Rwanda deal with the threat arising from online trade that, as was spoken about earlier, kind of flourishes through these loopholes. So over to you, Dr. Mukiza.
Thank you very much, moderator. I can say the ministerial order establishing the prohibited cosmetics on the Rwanda market was in 2016, as I told before. And the order is currently, the reinforcing of this order is currently monitored by Rwanda Food and Drug Authority, as the institution has in its mandate of protecting public health by controlling quality and safety of cosmetics and other products like medicine, as I told before. So this order, upon the inauguration of order, a variety of many people many people in Rwanda, public were happy with the order, as in the country we used to see some people with damaged skin due to those substandard cosmetics. So a variety of people, many people, were happy were happy with the the publication of that ministerial order. However, as you know, in society, some people were not happy. They said, no, 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 this should be keep being used. People shout. So how? But it was a little number. It was a little number considerable to the country members who agree and happy with the ministerial order upon its publication. However, the Rwanda government has tried to manage those complaints for a few number of people who complained that who complained about the ministerial order, saying that it is not good for people. So how the complaint were managed, the government have tried just to promote education to the few number of people who are not understanding or who were not happy with the order. So the government take a decision of doing a continuous education about cosmetic ingredient, about the government has used the dermatologist doctors to explain to public about the consequences and the health issues that may be raised from unsafe cosmetics, especially those containing mercury, hydroquinone, kojic acid, those whitening ingredients in cosmetic. So education was the first line to educate people with evidence-based education by showing pictures about the people with damaged skin. So another thing, it was just disseminating the evidence health issues with Rwanda FDA, with medical doctors, especially dermatologists. Another thing is the government take a decision and follow a way of promoting public awareness in entire countries to explain people about the harmfulness that may be raised from unsafe cosmetics. So slowly, a few number who were not understanding or who were complaining about the ministerial order were now convinced, and currently the use of those cosmetics with whitening gradient inside it is forbidden by the law, and Rwanda FDA is monitoring. I can say the Rwandan society is now understanding well and is happy with the order currently. In cosmetovigilance, we get information from people, from users. They fill the form by reporting adverse reaction that they have experienced from cosmetics, and post-market surveillance team from those information, they went to the market to sample, and the product are tested. Upon the detection of prohibited ingredient, the product is taken away from the market. As I have shared some examples of cosmetics product recalled from Rwanda market. So currently, the Rwandan society is happy with this ministerial order, is happy with regulatory services offered by Rwanda Food and Drugs Authority in terms of cosmetic quality and safety control. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makisa, for sharing that and highlighting the importance, the first aspect of education that's always extremely important. Now, pivoting to you, Sadiqa, Bangladesh is one of the very few Asian countries that regulates heavy metals and other chemical compounds in cosmetic products, and with its guidelines for cosmetic products that came into effect in 2019, an amount of around 10 million US dollars of these products was seized from the Bangladeshi market. So, as a result of these developments, the Bangladeshi guideline for cosmetic products made it into a short list for nominated policies for the Future Policy Award 2023. So, could you talk a bit more about this policy and any changes that you've seen that it has led to? Over to you.
Okay. Yes, it has also very changes. You know, when we started this campaign, it was I already mentioned, it was in 2008. After that, the Bangladesh Standard Testing Institute, they came to our notice. It was in 2000, I think, 13. After that, they are just contact with us and conducting they are also doing some research and laboratory tests. And after it is in 2015, it's the first, they gazetted the mandatory standard, Bangladesh Standard Testing Institute. They're under by the Ministry of Industry. First time they gazetted the standard. This is the mandatory standard. It is Mercury and skin lightening cream. It should be the standard in 1 ppm. After they are continuing is 2016 when we study again, is 2012, and also the 15, 16, 17. We are also doing the testing, and we share our knowledge and we share our research with the other ministries also. You know, the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, they are the main ministry to regulate this. But standard, it's also the mandatory standard. It's gazetted by the industry ministry. So we try to involve with other ministries who are already involved in the trade and commerce and other things. It has the after their intervention and continuous advocacy by the ISDO, and at the last, it was in 2018, 19, 22, by the support by the EEB and Zero Mercury. We did also the online platform. We did also the collecting the creams and online platform. We did also the testing, and we involve the Daraj is an online platform. It's a big platform in Bangladesh, and also the Kabuliwala. We noticed them, and also BSTI ban. First time it was in 2019. It was in 8 cream they banned. It also comes from especially in the Pakistan, China. It's also Vietnam, some of the India. So it has already banned in first time in 2000. It's 9 creams. After that, our continuous research by the Zero Mercury, BSTI took this decision and they banned now in 19 creams. So it has already in our regulated process, and regulatory is they are implement very highly and monitor. But still we have seen, the online platform, they don't have the regulatory body over there. So everybody are going over there and buy these things this way very easily. So, and also the one thing is that we already mentioned, it was in our luggage party. Luggage party, that means who are directly buy from the other abroad and take this in the suitcase and sell here. So this is also the two-way they are selling. There is no regulation, and they are not regulated body over there. But that in our role of the civil society, the role of the civil society is really fundamental in collaborating with the government to implement policies addressing toxic chemicals and heavy metals in products like in lightening cosmetics, not only the creams. And our tireless advocacy against the overuse of mercury in cosmetics has yields significant result. Already I mentioned the effort have prompted the Bangladesh Standard Testing Institute, BSTI, to take the concrete action by banning, now is they banning 19 face whitening creams this year due to the harmful mercury and hydroquinone levels. And one chemical is also, it is titanium dioxide. This is also the 3 times higher than the mercury, you know. It's also using in the powder, face powder like this. And additionally, BSTI has established a mercury limit. Already I mentioned it was in before in 2015 to 16, 1 ppm in cosmetics. Now they are saying the below 1 ppm.
Yeah.
So it's a crucial step towards ensuring consumer safety and promoting responsible manufacturing practices also. And I also say the positive impact of awareness activities and policy making in evident, particularly among the youth community in their quest for lighter skin. The shift in awareness has not only enlightened them about the dangers, but has also promoted a change in their mindset. And the individuals now recognize that skin color holds no essential value. Previously, fair skin was often considered crucial in matchmaking culture, but now there is a growing awareness that other qualities are far more significant rather than having white skins. And we are still continuously doing the awareness campaign. Also, now we started with the dermatologist center and the doctors, and we have been doing the survey, we have been doing the interview the patient also. So it also has a great impact in the society, because we are also just posting in the Facebook and Twitter and other things with their permission. So it has really a great impact nowadays. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that. And speaking of youth, Gurney, what actions from your perspective do you think that young people like yourselves, what can we do to contribute to the change in mindset so that we're able to move away from this toxic legacy, as Avib put it earlier?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. The issues that I face is absolutely rooted in the less value and less worth, going back to the social construction more. The point actually Indian government did is that the Advertisement Council of Bureau had banned all sorts of derogatory labels associated with the darker skin advertisements, like all these brand endorsements done by the previous Bollywood co-stars promoting lightening skin products. These are now banned by the Indian Government Advertising Council Bureau, which has a positive impact, so to speak, to promote the skin lightening products. But I would not say that it is not really very impactful, to be honest, because it has like the Hindustan Unilever has changed the derogatory levels of the Fair and Lovely's product. But if we can see the Nykaa or other social media channels where the skin lightening and brightening products are sold, they are still labeled as skin lightening and brightening products, where maybe the components of the products are changed into some natural remedies, like, okay, turmeric powder is instilled and not really some chemicals are mentioned into the description of the cosmetic products, so to speak. So the brightening and lightening, having fair skin is there very much in the Indian mindset. But yes, there is the awareness in terms of matrimonial ads, because one of the founding matrimonial site, Anupam Mittal's Shadi.com, they have removed the skin tone filters nowadays, so that people cannot choose their partners based on their skin tones. So that's one positive impact I could think of. And another issue is that at governmental level, I feel that there are a lot of books children's books which promote some sort of women with dark skin tones as ugly or as this kind of tones. So curriculum needs to be reformed to some extent. Still, there are some books which promotes this kind of advertisements. Apart from that, I could think of some individual campaigns which really created some positive impact, with the change.org and the petitions. One campaign that I could think of is Color Me Bright, where a racist advocate from India, she started with the campaign to promote more awareness so that who has already been the victim of colorism in India, they can share their stories and create more awareness through social media channels like X, formerly called Twitter. And this change.org petition has really created a huge lot of impact so that people are not silenced anymore to speak about the derogatory, discriminatory attitudes they faced based on the colorism previously. And also, I think there are a lot of animated films and visual graphics are shown to the children and also to the young women, because as I have already mentioned before in India, that it starts from the family itself, from the birth, the skin tone discrimination. So it was very important at the governmental level as well to promote skin or racial-based awareness. So yes, in terms of that, many films were shown. I could think of a popular Bollywood star, Nandita Das, and also after the George Floyd's death, Priyanka Chopra, who's global icon in terms of acting and other global skincare products who are formerly associated with a lot of skincare issues and products, but she has also advocated towards stop this racist aggression and all this colorism based in India. They are coming up with a dark skin is beautiful campaign. It was initiated by an NGO based in India. So these are kind of youth activisms and also local activisms and Indian citizens activisms coming into foreplay to create more impact. And we are hoping to really looking forward to a more sustainable and less colorism free space in India. The impact is there, but still the situation is alarming with the expanding market. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you very much, Gurney. And I am cognizant of time. And before we end, I'd just like to quickly give the floor to Monica as our keynote speaker. You set the stage for us, but really in just a minute or two, providing your remarks on, how can the Minamata Convention address these challenges, and, how can the unregulated online trade market, how can that be regulated based on the discussion points that our panelists brought up? So over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'll try to be brief and to say that the issue continues to be addressed under Minamata Convention. And I was very pleased that it was discussed by all parties during the 5th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention a few weeks ago in Geneva. And what happened there was that there was a proposal by African countries to amend the existing provisions on manufacture, export, and import of mercury added cosmetics, which was then agreed by all parties, which is a great success because starting from 2025, no content of mercury in cosmetics is acceptable. So basically the threshold that we have mentioned, this 1 ppm threshold, has been removed. And this will make enforcement easier because it's easier and cheaper to sample for mercury content where you are supposed to not to have any. There was also a decision by the COP to start looking mercury compounds. You mentioned, some of the speakers mentioned that mercury compounds are used for cosmetics, and currently trade of mercury compounds is not regulated by convention, only mercury, elemental mercury, but there is now a mandate to look into mercury compounds and whether they possibly jeopardize the purpose of the convention. So there is a lot of going on at the regulatory level, and there is also a request to Secretariat to prepare a study to look into how this ban for mercury in cosmetic is being implemented, and parties and observers are invited to share information with us. And in that study, we would like to address the phasing out of sales and offers of sales also on online platforms. We know that regulating online platforms is overall very challenging, but there are already some countries who are looking into it and developing policies and tools to address this effectively. So we would like this report to include also this information, and the Conference of the Parties will look at this issue again in 2 years' time. I would like also invite all countries who have not ratified the convention yet to do so, because then they will be bound by these regulations. And also to say that, of course, it's not only about regulations, but it's also about the gender equality. And all of you have alluded to this already in a very prominent way, and it relates to the roles the girls and women play in society. It's about equal access to education and policies that country could put in place to achieve this. And just to say, maybe from my personal experience, I have been privileged to start my young adulthood in the country that undergone transformation and became a free country. So I was able to study, pursue my career goals, but also challenge social pressure on women that was quite prevalent back in time. But many women and girls and men and boys do not have such a privileged situation. And here I would like to also have a word of caution that not only leave the choices to individuals, but there has to be also steps taken to address damaging or unethical content in advertisement and marketing, as we have heard a good example of already in India. This is important too. Absolutely. So let me just then finish and say that I'm really, really grateful for all of you. I have learned so much, and you have so much knowledge that I feel we collectively, we can really move the needle. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Monica, for your remarks. And on behalf of the World Future Council, I'd like to extend gratitude to all of our panelists and our audience members who joined us today. We've seen just how important it is for us to come out of this vicious cycle of hazardous chemicals and products, including mercury, skin-lightening products that are rooted in racism, colorism, casteism, and how it really requires all of us to stop this poison from continuing to infiltrate society, economy, and the environment. And we hope that we are all able to come away from this webinar with the knowledge and awareness about why it requires all of us to rebuild better and forward. And before we end, I wanted to acknowledge the wonderful staff of the World Future Council for all of their work in making today's webinar possible. So Miriam Pedersen, Jules Braid, Farina Dobbs, and Samia Kasid, and all of the staff at WFC who've contributed to making this a success. Thank you for your efforts and your dedication. We'd like to request all of you to please follow World Future Council on social media for subsequent Forward Thinkers webinar series, and also check out our website, worldfuturecouncil.org and futurepolicy.org, to learn more about how we're working to create a better world for current and future generations. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Together, let us break this vicious cycle and create a better world for all. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you very much, and goodbye.